The ultimatum. The day Earth stood still, Commander Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the Orbital Defense Station Aurora, watching the impossible sight unfold before her eyes. Massive ships hung in Earth's atmosphere like storm clouds made of metal and malice. Each vessel stretched for kilometers, their dark hulls pulsing with an ominous red glow that painted the clouds beneath them in shades of blood. "How many?" she asked, though she dreaded the answer. Lieutenant Marcus Reed checked his scanner readings for the 5th time in as many minutes. 217 confirmed contacts, Commander. They're positioned over every major population center on the planet. Sarah felt her stomach drop. Earth's entire defense fleet consisted of 37 ships, and even their largest vessels were dwarfed by the smallest of these alien craft. The enemy had appeared without warning, their ships materializing in Earth's atmosphere as if they had stepped through invisible doorways in space itself. On the surface below, panic spread through the cities like wildfire. Traffic jams clogged every highway as people fled in terror, though there was nowhere to run. The alien ships cast shadows over New York, London, Tokyo, and every other major city on Earth. Children pointed at the sky while their parents pulled them inside as if walls could protect them from weapons that could crack planets. The voice of Conquest President Elena Rodriguez sat in the emergency bunker beneath the White House, surrounded by her cabinet and the world's military leaders. The Situation Room screen showed the alien fleet from every angle, each image more terrifying than the last. General Harrison Blake, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, stood at the head of the table with grim determination etched into his weathered face. "Madam President, our defensive capabilities are limited. These ships use technology we don't understand. Our missiles can't penetrate their shields and their weapons." He paused, struggling with the words. "They demonstrated their power an hour ago." The main screen shifted to satellite footage of what had once been a military testing facility in Nevada. Where the base had stood, only a perfectly circular crater remained, its edges still glowing with residual energy. Not a single building, vehicle, or person had survived the demonstration. "They vaporized everything in a 10-kilometer radius," General Blake continued. "No explosion, no debris. The matter was simply unmade." Before anyone could respond, every screen in the room flickered and went dark. When the displays reactivated, they showed a single image that made everyone's blood run cold. The face that appeared was clearly not human. Its skin was pale gray, stretched tight over angular features that seemed carved from stone. 4 eyes, arranged in a diamond pattern, studied them with cold intelligence, while a mouth that was too wide and filled with too many teeth curved into what might have been a smile. "I am High Admiral Vextar of the Terran Empire," the being spoke, its voice carrying harmonics that hurt human ears. "Your species has been evaluated and found suitable for integration into our empire. You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally." The alien's 4 eyes seemed to focus directly on each person in the room simultaneously. "Disarm your military forces. Submit your governments to imperial oversight. Prepare your population for relocation and workforce integration. Any resistance will result in the complete sterilization of your planet." The transmission ended, leaving the room in stunned silence. Secretary of Defense James Morrison was the first to speak, his voice barely above a whisper. "Relocation? Workforce integration? They're talking about slavery." "Or worse," added Dr. Angela Foster, Earth's leading xenobiologist. "Based on the energy readings from that demonstration, they could turn our entire planet into glass if they wanted to. The fact that they haven't suggests they want something from us." President Rodriguez felt the weight of 7 billion lives pressing down on her shoulders. Every decision she made in the next 72 hours would determine whether humanity survived as a free species or became property of an alien empire. The impossible choice around the world. Emergency sessions convened in every capital. The United Nations General Assembly held an unprecedented emergency meeting, with representatives participating via secure video links from their respective bunkers. The debate was fierce but brief. The mathematics of the situation were undeniable. Secretary General Maria Santos addressed the assembly with barely controlled emotion. "We face extinction if we resist, and enslavement if we surrender. These are not the choices free peoples should have to make. Commander Chen received updates from defense stations throughout the solar system. The alien fleet had positioned itself with military precision, creating overlapping fields of fire that would prevent any ship from escaping Earth's gravity well. Worse, their sensors showed energy signatures building in the alien weapon systems. They were preparing for something. "Commander?" Lieutenant Reed called out urgently. "We're receiving distress signals from the Mars research colony." The main screen shifted to show footage from the red planet. 3 alien ships had appeared in Martian orbit, and the small research station that housed 50 scientists was under attack. But this wasn't the devastating weapon they had witnessed on Earth. Instead, the aliens were using some kind of energy beam to disable the station's systems one by one. "They're not destroying it," Sarah realized. "They're capturing it." The transmission from Mars cut to static, and another piece of humanity's future fell under alien control. The message was clear. Resistance was futile, but submission meant something far worse than death. Voices of defiance. Despite the overwhelming odds, not everyone was ready to surrender. In military bases around the world, soldiers prepared for what they knew would be humanity's last battle. Fighter pilots ran final checks on aircraft that seemed like toys compared to the alien ships. Naval vessels positioned themselves in Earth's oceans, their missile batteries aimed uselessly at targets beyond their reach. Captain David Torres commanded the UES Defiance, Earth's most advanced warship. As he stood on his bridge, looking at the enemy fleet through the main viewer, he felt a strange sense of calm. They were going to lose. Everyone knew it. But sometimes, the act of standing up to tyranny mattered more than the outcome. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving transmissions from resistance cells worldwide. They're asking for orders." David considered the weight of those words. Across the planet, ordinary people were choosing to fight rather than submit. Teachers, doctors, farmers, and factory workers were picking up weapons and preparing to face an enemy that could erase them from existence with the press of a button. "Tell them to wait," he said finally. "If we're going to make our stand, we do it together." Ancient Signals Dr. Rebecca Walsh had dedicated her life to listening to the stars. As the director of the Arecibo Deep Space Monitoring Facility, she had spent decades searching for signs of intelligent life in the universe. Now that life had found Earth, and it had not come in peace. While the world's attention focused on the alien fleet hanging over their cities, Rebecca continued her work. Her radio telescope swept the cosmos, searching for any sign that humanity was not alone in its struggle. The massive dishes tracked across the sky, gathering signals from distant stars and analyzing them for patterns that might indicate artificial origin. "Dr. Walsh," her assistant, young Timothy Chen, called out excitedly. "You need to see this." Rebecca hurried to his workstation, where waves of data cascaded across multiple screens. "What am I looking at?" "These signals started appearing about an hour ago," Timothy explained. "They're coming from deep space beyond the edge of our solar system. But look at the pattern." Rebecca studied the data, her pulse quickening as she recognized the mathematical progression. "These aren't random cosmic phenomena. This is artificial. Someone's transmitting a message." "That's not the strange part," Timothy continued. "The signals are getting stronger, and they're coming from multiple sources. Whatever's out there, it's moving toward us." As if summoned by their conversation, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. The main display showed a flood of new contacts appearing on the edge of the solar system. Ships were emerging from the darkness between the stars, but these vessels were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. The Black Fleet approaches, where the Terran Empire's ships were massive and imposing. These new arrivals seemed to absorb light itself. They moved through space like living shadows, their hulls so dark they appeared as holes cut in the fabric of reality. No lights adorned their surfaces, no energy signatures betrayed their positions. They existed as negations of existence itself. Commander Chen watched from the Aurora as the mysterious fleet approached. Her sensors struggled to track the vessels as if they existed only partially in normal space. How many ships are we detecting? It's impossible to tell, Lieutenant Reed replied, frustration evident in his voice. The sensors keep losing lock. Sometimes I count 50 ships, sometimes 500. It's like they're phasing in and out of our dimension. The alien fleet hanging over Earth's cities began to stir. Their formations shifted as new orders were transmitted between ships. Whatever was approaching from deep space had gotten their attention, and for the first time since their arrival, the invaders seemed uncertain. High Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the sensor readings with growing unease. His four eyes tracked the approaching darkness, and ancient memories stirred in his mind. The Terran Empire had conquered 17 star systems and enslaved dozens of species, but there were powers in the galaxy that even the Empire feared to challenge. Identification of approaching vessels? He demanded. His tactical officer, a younger Terran with 3 eyes instead of 4, consulted his instruments with nervous energy. Unknown, High Admiral. Their technology exceeds our understanding. They appear to be using some form of dimensional displacement that renders accurate sensor readings impossible. Vextar felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. On his bridge. In the Empire's long history of conquest, there had been whispers of ancient powers that watched from the void. Powers that had established laws governing which species could be conquered and which were under protection. The bureaucrats had assured him that humanity held no such status. It appeared the bureaucrats might have been wrong. Countdown to destiny as the mysterious Black Fleet continued its approach. The countdown to Earth's surrender deadline ticked relentlessly forward. 60 hours remained, then 50, then 40. The world held its breath, caught between the promise of annihilation from above and the mystery approaching from the depths of space. President Rodriguez convened another emergency meeting, this time including Dr. Walsh and her team. Doctor, what can you tell us about these new arrivals? Rebecca pulled up her data on the main screen. The signals we've been receiving contain mathematical progressions that suggest advanced intelligence. More importantly, the transmission protocols they're using are incredibly old. Based on the harmonic frequencies, I estimate this technology predates the Terran Empire by thousands of years. Are they coming to help us? Asked General Blake. I don't know, Rebecca admitted. But there's something else. The signals contain embedded data streams that reference Earth directly. These aren't random explorers who happen to detect our distress calls. They know about us specifically. As if responding to her words, every communication system on Earth and in orbit suddenly activated simultaneously. The voice that emerged was unlike anything humanity had ever heard. Where the Terran Admiral's voice had been harsh and cruel, this new voice carried harmonics that seemed to resonate with something deep in human consciousness. Children of Terra, the voice said, bypassing human language entirely and speaking directly to their minds. The old compact has not been forgotten. We come to honor ancient obligations. The transmission ended, leaving everyone in stunned silence. Around the world, people reported hearing the same message in perfect clarity, regardless of their native language or hearing ability. The Black Fleet had spoken, and their words carried promises of hope that humanity had thought lost forever. With 36 hours remaining until the surrender deadline, Earth found itself caught between two alien powers. One promised enslavement or death. The other spoke of ancient compacts and obligations. As the dark ships continued their silent approach through the void, humanity prepared to learn whether salvation, or merely a different form of doom, was approaching from the stars. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine not just Earth's fate, but reveal truths about humanity's place in the galaxy that had been hidden for millennia. In the darkness between the stars, ancient powers stirred, and the universe itself seemed to hold its breath as two fleets prepared to meet over the small blue planet that had somehow become the center of their conflict. The Black Fleet's revelation. Guardians emerged. The Black Fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system like a tide of living darkness. Commander Sarah Chen watched from the Aurora as the mysterious vessels took positions around the outer planets, forming a perfect sphere of protection that encompassed the entire system. Their movements were so coordinated they seemed to share a collective consciousness. each ship knowing its exact place in a formation that had been planned since before human civilization began. "Commander," Lieutenant Reed's voice carried a mixture of awe and terror. "The Black Fleet isn't just positioning randomly. They're recreating constellation patterns from ancient human star charts, patterns that shouldn't exist because they're viewing star positions from outside our galaxy." Sarah studied the tactical display, her mind racing to comprehend the implications. These ships knew things about humanity that humans themselves had forgotten. They moved with the confidence of beings returning to familiar territory, not explorers encountering a new world. On the surface of Earth, Dr. Rebecca Walsh worked frantically in her laboratory, analyzing the flood of data streaming from the Black Fleet. Each ship was transmitting on frequencies that human science claimed were impossible, yet her equipment was receiving them perfectly. More disturbing still, the mathematical signatures embedded in their communications matched patterns found in the oldest archaeological sites on Earth. "Timothy," she called to her assistant, "pull up the quantum resonance data from the Göbekli Tepe artifacts." The young scientist's fingers flew over his keyboard, bringing up files that had puzzled archaeologists for decades. Stone carvings from humanity's oldest temple complex showed star patterns and mathematical formulations that predated written language by thousands of years. As the data aligned on their screens, both scientists stared in shock. "The patterns match perfectly," Timothy whispered. "Dr. Walsh, this technology, it's been on Earth before." Ancient memories awakened. High Admiral Vextar stood on his flagship's bridge, watching the Black Fleet's arrival with growing dread. His 4 eyes tracked their movements, and genetic memories buried deep in Terran consciousness began to surface. Every species the Empire had conquered carried legends of the Dark Guardians, the ancient powers that enforced laws older than civilization itself. "Hi, Admiral," his tactical officer reported with barely controlled panic. "The approaching fleet has activated some kind of spatial distortion field. Our weapon systems are unable to achieve target lock." Vextar's wide mouth curved into what his species considered a grimace of fear. "Transmit a priority message to Empire Command. Inform them we may have encountered a protected species scenario." The concept of protected species was known to every Imperial officer but rarely discussed. Throughout the galaxy, certain worlds and peoples enjoyed the guardianship of powers so ancient and advanced that even the mighty Terran Empire dared not challenge them. The punishment for violating such protection was not mere defeat, but complete erasure from existence. "Sir?" The communications officer's voice cracked with stress. "Empire Command is not responding. In fact, we're not receiving any signals from outside this system. It's as if we've been cut off from the rest of the galaxy." On Earth, President Rodriguez received an urgent briefing from her science advisors. Dr. Angela Foster, the xenobiologist, had made a discovery that changed everything they thought they knew about human origins. "Madam President," Dr. Foster began, her voice trembling with excitement and fear, "we've been analyzing genetic samples from populations around the world, comparing them to the quantum signatures we're detecting from the Black Fleet. The results are unprecedented." The main screen displayed a complex genetic map showing human DNA structures. Highlighted in red were sequences that had puzzled scientists for generations, genetic markers that seemed to serve no biological function and appeared in every human being regardless of ancestry. "These junk DNA sequences aren't random mutations," Dr. Foster continued. "They're artificial markers, quantum-encoded information that responds to specific energy frequencies, the same frequencies the Black Fleet is transmitting." President Rodriguez felt the world shift beneath her feet. "Are you telling me that human DNA has been artificially modified?" "More than that," Dr. Foster replied. "These markers appear to be some kind of identification system, like a genetic signature that marks humanity as belonging to whoever placed them there." The truth revealed as the Black Fleet completed its formation. Around Earth's solar system, the largest of their vessels moved toward the planet itself. Unlike the Terran ships that hung menacingly in the atmosphere, this vessel approached with careful, almost reverent movements. It positioned itself between Earth and the Imperial fleet, a dark guardian standing between humanity and their would-be conquerors. Commander Chen received a priority transmission from Earth's surface. President Rodriguez herself appeared on the screen, her face showing the strain of carrying the weight of species survival. "Commander, we need your best people to prepare for possible first contact with the Black Fleet. Everything we've learned suggests they have a connection to humanity. That goes back thousands of years." "What kind of connection, Madam President?" "The kind that might explain why humans spread across Earth so quickly, why our technology advanced so rapidly, and why we've always looked to the stars with such longing. We may not be from here, Commander. We may be refugees who forgot our own history." As if summoned by their conversation, space around the Aurora began to shimmer and distort. The Black Fleet's flagship was approaching, its reality-bending technology allowing it to move through dimensions that normal matter couldn't access. The ship materialized alongside the human station without triggering a single alarm or defensive system. Sarah felt her consciousness expand as an alien presence touched her mind. Not invasively as the Terrans had done, but with a gentle familiarity that felt like coming home after a long journey. When the voice spoke, it carried harmonics that resonated with genetic memories buried in human DNA. "Commander Sarah Chen of the Aurora," the voice said, speaking her name as if it had always known her. "I am Keeper Zalthara of the Protectorate. We have watched over your people since the long exile began. The time of hiding is over. The long exile across Earth and its orbital stations. Every human being experienced the same phenomenon simultaneously. Their consciousness was gently lifted and connected to a vast repository of memories that spanned millennia. They saw their true history, not as natives of Earth, but as refugees from a dying world in a distant galaxy. The visions showed a planet of incredible beauty, where an advanced human civilization had flourished for thousands of years. But their sun was dying, and no technology could prevent its collapse. As solar flares began to sterilize their world, the Protectorate had arrived. Ancient beings of incredible power who had sworn to preserve life wherever it might be threatened. Your ancestors were evacuated from 12 worlds across 3 galaxies. Keeper Zalthara's voice echoed in every human mind. Earth was chosen as your new home because its biosphere could support your evolution. But the journey was long, and to protect you from those who would exploit refugees, we removed your memories of the past. President Rodriguez stood in the Situation Room, tears streaming down her face as she witnessed the birth of human civilization. She saw the first primitive tribes receiving guidance from dark figures who taught them agriculture, mathematics, and the basics of survival. She watched as humans spread across Earth, driven by genetic memories of star travel and exploration. "The genetic markers in your DNA are not chains," the Keeper continued. "They are keys. Keys to technologies and knowledge that were locked away until you had grown strong enough to reclaim your heritage." The Protectorate's Response High Admiral Vextar watched in horror as his fleet's weapon systems began shutting down one by one. The Black Fleet wasn't attacking them directly. Instead, they were simply negating the Imperial ship's ability to function. Energy weapons powered down, shields collapsed, and engines fell silent. In minutes, the mighty Terran warfleet became nothing more than lifeless hulks drifting in Earth's atmosphere. "How are they doing this?" Vextar demanded. His science officer, one of the Empire's most brilliant tactical minds, stared at his instruments in defeat. "They're not using weapons, High Admiral. They're rewriting the fundamental laws of physics around our ships. Our technology simply cannot function in the spatial distortions they're creating." A new presence filled the Imperial flagship's bridge. Keeper Zalthara materialized not as a physical being, but as a projection of pure consciousness that spoke directly to every Terran mind simultaneously. "Admiral Vextar of the Terran Empire," the Keeper's voice carried the weight of cosmic authority. "You have violated the Compact of Protected Species. Humanity is under our guardianship and has been since their placement on Earth. Your presence here is a transgression that demands consequence." Vextar fell to his knees, his 4 eyes wide with terror. Every member of his crew did the same, overcome by the presence of a being whose power transcended their understanding. The Admiral had conquered worlds and enslaved entire species. But, before the ancient Protectorate, He was nothing more than a primitive savage wielding crude tools. We were not informed, Vextar managed to say. The Imperial records showed no protection status for this species. Ignorance is not absolution, the Keeper replied. But you will be given a choice that your empire rarely offers its victims. Withdraw from this system immediately and carry word back to your masters that humanity is beyond their reach. Or face the consequences of challenging powers that existed when your species was still learning to make fire. Humanity's awakening. Around the world, humans began to change. The genetic locks placed in their DNA by the Protectorate millennia ago were opening, releasing capabilities that had been dormant since the long exile. Scientists found themselves understanding principles of physics that had seemed impossible hours before. Engineers looked at their crude technology and suddenly saw how to build devices that could manipulate matter at the quantum level. Dr. Rebecca Walsh stood in her laboratory, staring at equipment that now seemed as primitive as stone tools. Knowledge flowed through her mind like water through a drought-stricken desert. She understood now how to build communication arrays that could transmit instantaneously across galactic distances, how to create power sources that drew energy from the quantum foam of space itself. Timothy, she called to her assistant who was experiencing his own awakening, we need to contact every research facility on Earth. Humanity is about to take its first real steps toward rejoining galactic civilization. Commander Chen felt her own transformation as tactical knowledge that had never been taught flooded her consciousness. She understood the principles behind the Black Fleet's dimensional technology, saw how Earth's orbital defenses could be transformed into weapons and shields that would make the planet impregnable to any conventional attack. Lieutenant Reed, she said, her voice carrying new authority. Begin preparation for a complete overhaul of our defense systems. We're going to need to protect not just Earth, but our place in a galaxy that's much more dangerous than we ever imagined. The Empire's Retreat Admiral Vextar made his choice quickly. The Terran Empire was powerful, but it was not suicidal. Facing the Protectorate was like challenging the fundamental forces of the universe itself. He ordered his fleet to withdraw, but the Keeper had one final message for the Empire. When you return to your masters, Zalthara said, tell them that humanity is no longer hidden. They have awakened to their true heritage and will soon reclaim their place among the stars. The Terran Empire would do well to remember that some species are protected not because they are weak, but because they have the potential to become powerful beyond imagination. The Imperial fleet limped away from Earth, their ships restored just enough to make the journey home. They carried with them news that would shake the Empire to its foundations. Humanity was no longer a primitive species ripe for conquest. They were the inheritors of ancient knowledge and the protected children of powers that could unmake civilizations with a thought. A new dawn. As the Black Fleet began to withdraw to the outer reaches of the solar system, Keeper Zalthara addressed humanity one final time. Your exile is over, children of Terra. The knowledge and technology of your ancestors flows through your veins once more. Build wisely, explore courageously, and remember that great power comes with great responsibility. President Rodriguez stood before the United Nations General Assembly, addressing not just Earth's leaders, but representatives from orbital colonies and research stations throughout the solar system. Humanity had work to do. They needed to rebuild their civilization with technologies that seemed like magic, defend themselves against an empire that would surely return with greater force, and prepare to take their place in a galactic community they had never known existed. We are no longer alone, she declared to the assembled representatives. We never were. Our guardians have watched over us for thousands of years, and now they have given us the tools to stand on our own. The age of humanity's childhood is over. Today, we begin our journey to the stars. Above Earth, the Aurora and other orbital stations began their transformation. Human engineers worked with awakened knowledge to rebuild their crude technology into instruments worthy of a star-faring civilization. In laboratories around the world, scientists unlocked secrets that would allow humanity to explore not just their galaxy, but others beyond. The Terran Empire had come to conquer Earth, and had instead awakened a sleeping giant. In trying to enslave humanity, they had given the Protectorate reason to reveal the truth that had been hidden for millennia. Humanity was not a young species learning to crawl among the stars. They were the descendants of stellar explorers, the children of cosmic wanderers who had journeyed between galaxies before most civilizations had learned to leave their homeworlds. The Black Fleet faded back into the darkness between stars, their mission complete. They had protected their charges one more time, but they knew this would be the last. Humanity no longer needed guardians. They had remembered who they were, and the galaxy would never be the same. As Earth's sun set on the first day of humanity's new age, children around the world looked up at the stars with new understanding. Those distant lights were not mysterious dots in the sky, but destinations waiting to be explored. The long exile was over, and humanity's true journey was just beginning.